The band kept playing for 3 full seconds after Sam stopped singing, because nobody, not the musicians, not the crowd, not anyone in that Mississippi venue, understood why Sam Cooke had suddenly gone completely still. They followed his eyes, and then they understood. Nobody moved. The band stopped one by one. First the drummer, then the bassist, then the piano, until the only sound in that small Mississippi venue was the breathing of the crowd. Sam was still standing at the microphone, but he wasn't performing anymore. He was just looking, and the entire room followed his gaze. To understand what Sam saw in that crowd and why it stopped him cold, you have to go back, not to that night, further back, to a small town in Mississippi 30 years earlier, where 2 boys grew up side by side with the same dreams and the same nothing, and the same belief that one day things would be different. Clarksdale, Mississippi in the early 1930s was not a place that gave its children many reasons for optimism. It was a town shaped by poverty and segregation, and the particular heaviness that settles over places where the rules are clear and the penalties for breaking them are severe. The black community in Clarksdale lived within a set of boundaries, geographic, economic, and social, that had been in place for generations and showed no signs of moving. Inside those boundaries, people built what they could: families, churches, music. The Highway Baptist Church sat at the center of that community, and the Cooke family sat near the center of the church. Reverend Charles Cooke was a man of enormous quiet dignity, and his children, including young Samuel, grew up understanding that dignity was not something the world gave you. It was something you built and maintained yourself, regardless of what the world decided you deserved. Samuel Cooke and a boy named James Hollis grew up 3 houses apart on the same unpaved street. They had been friends before either of them could fully articulate what friendship meant. The kind of bond that forms between children who share the same geography, the same limitations, and the same unspoken understanding of what their lives are likely to hold. James was not a musician. He didn't have Sam's voice or Sam's particular relationship with sound, but he was present for all of it: the early morning singing, the church performances, the first tentative steps towards something larger. He was the one who told Sam at the age of 9 that his voice sounded different from everyone else's. Not better, exactly, just different, like it was coming from somewhere further away. They made each other promises the way children do, extravagant, impossible promises about futures they couldn't fully imagine. Sam was going to be famous. James was going to have a business. They were both going to get out of Clarksdale and build something in the world that Clarksdale had never given them room to build. One of them kept that promise. By the time Sam Cooke returned to Mississippi in the early 1960s, he had become something that the town of Clarksdale could not have imagined producing. He had sold millions of records. He had performed at Carnegie Hall. He had sat with presidents and revolutionaries and the most famous people in the world. He had founded his own record label. He had negotiated his own contracts. He had built, carefully and strategically, an empire. He came back to Mississippi because he never fully stopped being from there. The fame and the money and the tailored suits and the sold-out concert halls were all real. But underneath all of it was a boy from Clarksdale who had grown up understanding dignity the way his father had taught him. That boy never left. He just got buried under everything that came after. The venue that night was small, the kind of place that held a few hundred people at most, with a low ceiling and wooden floors and the particular acoustic intimacy that only small rooms produce. Sam had played places like this thousands of times before the fame arrived. In some ways, they still felt more natural to him than the grand concert halls. The distance between the stage and the audience was nothing. You could see faces. You could see eyes. That was the problem, and the gift. The crowd that gathered was the community, working people mostly, dressed in their best, because Sam Cooke deserved your best, even on a Tuesday night in Mississippi. They had come to hear the voice that had made it out, the voice that belonged to them, even as it belonged to the world. There was a particular pride in a room like this that existed nowhere else, the pride of a community watching one of their own stand in the light. Sam opened the show the way he always did, smooth, controlled, giving the crowd exactly what they came for. Song after song landing where it was supposed to land, his voice doing what it always did, the room warming to him in that particular way that only Sam Cooke could produce. Everything was exactly right. And then, about 40 minutes into the set, in the middle of a song, Sam Cooke looked down into the front section of the crowd and stopped. Not a pause, not a breath between phrases, a full, complete stop. Later, a woman named Dorothy Webb, who had been standing near the front, would describe the moment with the precision of someone who had turned it over in her mind many times in the years that followed. She said Sam's face didn't change dramatically. That was what struck her most. There was no gasp, no visible shock, just a very quiet, very still settling, the expression of a man who has seen something he was not prepared to see and is deciding, in real time, what to do about it. The face in the crowd belonged to James Hollis. Sam would have known him anywhere. 30 years had passed, but the face was the same face. The same eyes, the same particular set of the jaw that Sam had known since before he could read. What was different was everything around the face. The clothes were worn through at the elbows, the kind of worn that comes not from one hard season, but from many years of not having enough. The posture carried the particular weight of a man who had been carrying something heavy for a very long time. The hands, visible where they rested on the back of the seat in front of him, were the hands of someone who had worked physically his entire life. James Hollis had not gotten out of Clarksdale. The business had never materialized. The promises that two boys had made on an unpaved street in the early 1930s had been kept by one of them and not the other. And the one who hadn't kept them was standing 15 feet from the stage, looking up at his childhood friend with an expression that contained too many things to name. Sam saw all of this in the space of a few seconds. The band had stopped by now. The room was quiet in a way that small rooms get quiet, completely, immediately, every person aware that something was happening that had not been on the program. The audience didn't know what they were witnessing. They just knew that Sam Cooke was standing at the microphone not singing, and that his eyes were fixed on something in the crowd, and that whatever he was looking at had changed the temperature of the entire room. Sam stepped back from the microphone. He said something quietly to the piano player. Nobody near the front caught the words. The piano player nodded slowly. And then Sam stepped back to the microphone and began to sing again. But it was a different song. He hadn't announced it, hadn't told the band, hadn't explained to the audience what was happening or why. He simply began to sing, slowly, quietly, with a gentleness that was different from anything else in the set that night. The band found their way into it one by one, following Sam the way they always followed Sam, trusting that wherever he was going was somewhere worth going. The song was a gospel hymn, one that both Sam and James would have known from childhood, from those Sunday mornings in Clarksdale, where Charles Cooke preached and the congregation sang, and the world outside the church walls was temporarily held at a distance. The kind of song that doesn't belong to any one person, the kind of song that belongs to everyone who learned it in a small church in a hard town and carried it with them into whatever came next. Sam sang it directly to James, not obviously, not in a way that would have embarrassed the man or drawn the attention of the crowd in a pointed way, but James understood. The angle of Sam's gaze, the particular softness in the voice, the way a song can be addressed to one person in a room full of hundreds, and only that one person knows. Dorothy Webb said later that she watched James Hollis's face during the song. She said she saw the moment he understood what Sam was doing. She said she had never seen a face move through so many things so quickly. Surprise, then something that might have been confusion, then something she didn't have a word for, something between grief and gratitude. The expression of a man receiving something he didn't know he needed and couldn't have asked for. Sam finished the song. The room was silent for a moment, in the way rooms go silent when something has happened that everyone feels but nobody fully understands. Then the applause came, not the usual concert applause, but something quieter and more considered, the applause of people who sensed they had witnessed something private and were trying to honor it without intruding on it. Sam moved on. The set continued. He performed for another hour, giving the crowd everything they had come for. By the end of the night, the room was back to where concert rooms are supposed to be, warm and loud and full of the particular joy that Sam Cooke produced in audiences everywhere he went. But something had happened in the middle of it that couldn't be undone, something that had nothing to do with the music business or the record label or the carefully managed image or any of the machinery that Sam Cooke had built around himself in the years since leaving Mississippi, something that belonged only to two boys who had grown up on the same street with the same dreams and gone in completely different directions. After the show, Sam asked someone on his team to find James Hollis in the crowd. James was brought backstage. Nobody who was present reported what was said between them. That conversation stayed where it belonged, in a room with a closed door, between two men who had known each other before either of them was anyone. What is known is that before James left that night, Sam pressed something into his hand. Nobody confirmed exactly what it was. One person who was nearby said it looked like an envelope. Another said it was folded bills. Whatever it was, James Hollis accepted it without a word. He nodded once, the nod of a man receiving something he is too proud to ask for and too honest to refuse. And then he walked back out into the Mississippi night. Sam watched him go from the backstage doorway. He stood there for a long moment after James had disappeared into the dark. A member of his road crew who witnessed this later told people close to Sam that he had never seen Sam look quite like that. Not sad exactly, and not happy. Something in between. The expression of a man who has just done something small in the face of something enormous and knows that the smallness of it is not enough, but does it anyway because it is what he has. Sam Cooke did not sleep that night. A member of his team later said they saw a light under his hotel room door at 4 in the morning, that Sam was still awake hours after the show, sitting with whatever the night had put in front of him. Nobody knocked. Nobody asked if he was all right. Some things a person needs to sit with alone. Fame has a way of insulating a person from the world they came from. The money and the distance and the sheer velocity of a life lived at Sam Cooke's level creates a kind of buffer between who you are now and who you were then. Most people who achieve what Sam achieved accept that buffer as the price of the journey. They have to. The alternative, staying fully present to everything left behind, is too heavy to carry alone. There's a particular kind of guilt that belongs only to the people who make it out. Not guilt for succeeding, that would be too simple, but guilt for the randomness of it, for the fact that the voice that carried Sam Cooke out of Clarksdale was not something he earned or deserved more than James Hollis. It was simply something he had, a gift, distributed without fairness or logic to one boy on a street in Mississippi and not the other. Sam Cooke understood this. He had always understood it. It was part of why he fought so hard for ownership, for control, for the ability to build something that could outlast him. He knew that the randomness of his gift came with a responsibility, not just to himself, but to everyone who shared his beginnings and didn't share his luck. But Mississippi didn't let Sam have the buffer that night. It put James Hollis 15 feet from the stage and made Sam look, made him really look, at the road not taken, at the version of the story where the voice doesn't carry you out, and you stay, and you work, and you wear through the elbows of your jacket, and you come to a concert on a Tuesday night to hear the boy you grew up with sing songs that the whole world knows. Sam Cooke died 14 months after that Mississippi night. He was 33 years old. He left behind records that changed music, a label that changed the industry, and a voice that nobody who ever heard it fully forgot. He also left behind something smaller and less documented, a moment in a small venue on a Tuesday night when he stopped in the middle of a song because he saw a face, when he set down everything he had become and picked up something he had carried since childhood, when he sang a gospel hymn to a man in worn clothes and reminded both of them and everyone who was there to witness it that the distance between the life you have and the life you left behind is never as large as it looks from the stage. If this story moved you, make sure to subscribe. Every day we tell the stories that exist in the space between the records and the legend, the human moments that shaped the music. Hit the like button if you believe that fame never fully erases where you came from. And tell us in the comments, have you ever had a moment where your past found you when you least expected it? Because Sam Cooke did, on a Tuesday night in Mississippi, and he handled it the only way he knew how. He sang. We'll see you in the next one.